let you know when we're live. My internet is slow. Oh, there we go. All right, we are live and we are public on my Facebook page. And we're in the green room with Michael White today. And this was his song. I was playing this song off of your Michael White project. And I'm not, is that song Best Friend? Michael?
Yes, Best Friend.
Okay. Then are you
by Brandy?
By Brandy. What? You're froze up. Uh-oh.
Yes.
Okay.
She was the original artist who did that. That was a remake of her song.
All right. So I want to ask you a couple of questions. And you were saying that you just were in the middle of recording something, and we were talking a little bit before we went live, and you know, it's been slow and things are going, you know, not a lot of work, but you're doing sessions in your studio there.
You broke up.
Yeah, you know.
Say it again.
Yeah, this is really weird. We were having a great connection, and the minute I went live, the feed got goofy a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But you can hear me now.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, I got you now.
So you were in the middle of doing a session right now. You've got a home studio, and you record some tracks for people, and then send them the WAV files or something.
Yeah, or they'll send me the whole Pro Tools session, and I'll put, you know, that's how it goes. And also I'll rent it out to certain players, not everybody, but I had Teddy Campbell over here 2 weeks ago. He was doing something with Ricky Minor for a TV show, and with the COVID-19 thing going on, they don't want to put everybody in the same room. So Teddy is a good friend, so he came over here and tracked over here.
So do you do a lot of have a lot of other drummers come and record in your studio then?
Yeah, I've had Sean Rickman, Poogie Bell, Dennis Chambers, Lil John Roberts, Teddy Campbell, Oscar Seaton, a whole bunch of guys have been by here. Tony Moore, Eric Valentine, a bunch of guys come by. Some of them have studios now, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had my room for like almost 20 years almost.
Wow.
So
and you were saying that Dennis Moody, who's a mutual friend, comes over and does things for you. And what are some of the records that you've done there? You've won Grammys, and including and what is that right behind you? I asked you about this earlier. That Luther Vandross. Did you? What was?
Oh, that's a record I did for Luther Vandross with Marcus Miller. Yeah.
And you played on the whole record.
You broke up.
Yeah. You know, the internet we're at the mercy of the internet. My apologies.
No, I didn't. I played on one track.
Okay.
And that's one of the records. On this Busybody record, I did percussion on Superstar. Okay. And it's another Luther Vandross record in my tracking room that I did. And I don't remember the song I played on, but I played on the whole track on that one, not on the whole record.
Yeah. Okay. And what are some of the other Grammys that you've won and sessions that you've done?
Here, you mean here or just period?
Just period. Well, either, you know, the ones you've done there and just period.
Well, here we did, I did the Benson Giroux record, the duet record, and we did most of it at Henson Studio.
We back. Let's see how this is looking. Give me a second. I'm trying to watch it. Now, are you hearing me and seeing me okay right now?
Yeah, sometimes you go in and out.
Yeah. Okay. So my switcher studio kind of went down. I'm just going to kind of follow it and make sure that we're back live. and then I want to try to get your back to your thoughts. You know, the internet has gone so crazy since we've been doing this. 10 weeks ago, I didn't have many internet problems, but every week it seems as though it gets worse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it looks like we're back live. I'm just making sure. Dennis Moody's watching. I just want to make sure. All right. It looks like we're good. It looks like we're back on. So
Okay.
I want to ask you then. So you did all those records. Are you playing drums on them, or are you mostly, or are you doing any other parts or anything on all that stuff? You're just mostly doing drums and percussion, right?
Yeah, drums.
Yeah. Okay. And do you play?
Sometimes percussion.
Uh-huh. And do you like congas and all that kind of
Right.
stuff?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes percussion, but all the time drums.
Wow. And what kind of TV shows and movies?
Yeah, all the hand percussion stuff, and I don't play mallets anymore. I used to play mallets and timpani in high school and college. Yeah, TV shows.
Yeah. And
You say what? Go ahead, say it again.
and movies and stuff.
I do. I've done quite a few movies. Horrible Bosses 2. Think Like a Man. Think Like a Man 2. Shaft. Boomerang. Above the Rim. Um, Best Man's Holiday. Jeez, I'm leaving out a bunch of them. Uncle Drew.
Wow.
The Wedding Ringer. I'm leaving out a bunch of them.
No, still, I mean that. I love Shaft. You did Shaft, the one with the most recent ones.
The brand new one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Man. So and I apologize about the internet connection, because we were doing fine until I decided to go live.
I saw.
I do have an option in order to make sure we get something decent. I do have an option of trying to switch this to Zoom. Do you do Zoom at all? Did you hear that, Michael? Hello?
I haven't done it before.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's try to keep this going and see.
No.
Are you hearing me?
Yep, I hear you.
Wow. Okay, so I'm also trying to watch the live stream and make sure we're still seeing stuff here. So Dennis Moody's watching. The broadcast is interrupted. I can't tell whether anybody's seeing us or not. Oh man, but it says we're live.
Oh, okay.
It says we're live. Let me check this. See if you can see it on your
Boomerang, Above the Rim.
Okay. Yeah. So people are hearing it. Okay. All right. So we're still going. All right. You there?
Okay.
Okay. So now, see, I have all these the people that you've.
I'm here.
Okay. So and also doing all those movies and those soundtracks, you also have done a lot of touring, because the first time I met you was when you lived in Chicago, and before you moved to Los Angeles, and I met you at a drum store, and at the time you were touring with Low Rawls. And what other tour? I also saw that you did Frankie or Mays and Frankie Beverly.
Well, no, I was touring with Low Rawls.
Okay.
Frankie Beverly and Mays didn't come until 1985.
Oh.
Low Rawls was 1980, right during the same time as Denise Williams.
And Denise Williams was your first tour, is that correct? Denise Williams was your first tour?
No, no, I used to do things with Ramsey Lewis when I was a kid. When I was 15, no, my first tour as um, major tour like that, yeah. So which was 1978. But I did dates with Ramsey Lewis when I was 15.
Wow.
TV shows and things like that. I had a band with his son, and we had a band, and we used to rehearse at Ramsey's house. So I've been knowing Ramsey since I was probably 13 or 14. So I grew up around those guys.
So
And then I went out with a guy that was the lead singer for the not the lead singer, yeah, the lead singer for the Shylights, a guy named Danny Johnson, and that was my first extensive tour.
it, and you were like 15 and 16?
When I went out with Danny, I was 17. When I was doing the things with Ramsey, I was 15.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's you're doing some heavy gigs at a young age. I mean, guys like me, I'm 60 and I still want to do those gigs. Like, man. So then you're related to Verdine White and Maurice.
Not by blood, but
Okay.
by adoption, because they took a liking to me. I met them years ago, um, hanging out with Ramsey and those guys. So I met those studio, and then later when he was tired of the studio, he made a career for himself to go out and tour. Same with people like Freddie Washington, guys that played on a million records, that can turn around and go and do them both. So it's interesting to be able to do that.
What is the my feed I think had an interruption again, but I came back. But right now we're still live, so we may have lost a few seconds of what you just said. But is there a real
Mm-hmm.
difference in how you play in a studio and attacking the drums and everything as opposed to playing live? Is there a real difference there?
Um, Recording is definitely different than playing live. The microphones, the for lack of better terms, Pro Tools, the tape doesn't lie. I mean, you could feel that you're playing one way, and the playback happens, and it's like it exposes every blemish, um, especially songs like ballads. I get called to do a lot of ballads, and ballads are the hardest songs to record because they move slow and you can see all the flaws. And up tempo songs are a little easier to record because it goes by faster. By the time you think that you may have rushed or dragged or clicked the stick or did something, it's already gone by. You can say, oh, never mind, I'm okay. You know, but a ballad moves so slow, you can see like, that's rushing right there, that's late right there, that's flamming right here, or it's just a great take. So, but it's two different worlds. That they used to when I used to do jingles in Chicago, they used to call it red light fever. That a lot of guys play great until you push the record button and the red light, kind of jacks people up.
Uh,
And that's
okay. This may make a difference. Uh, and it is. Can you hear me okay?
yeah.
All right. Now I know the feed went goofy, but this is what I just did. Not that it matters, but my internet is going awful. So what I just did is I'm using my cell connection in order to make a better connection because
Oh, okay.
as you know, the internet is goofy, but I'm just using my cell connection and we've got a much better connection.
Oh, okay, good.
So now everything that we've done up to now has been broken and the internet kept dropping out, but we've got a pretty solid signal now.
Yeah, it does sound better now.
Right? Oh,
Mhm.
man. You know, I hate the internet. Damn it. You know, it's like just when everything's going good and I ask a good question, I get a good answer and geez, you know, all right. So it looks like we're back live again and we have a strong connection because I don't even know if I'm going to try to use internet anymore because it just gets goofy.
Oh, okay.
So where were we? I was asking about the difference between playing in the studio and playing in on live gigs. And do you do when you're in a studio and you're doing those slow ballads? Do you use click and all that kind of stuff much? Or
Yeah. Some artists prefer not to use a click, like Frankie Beverly. He doesn't like clicks. Um, when we cut Steely Dan, we would always cut with a click, and then we'd always do what he would call an effort track, which means no click. Don't worry about what's on the paper. Kind of play what you feel or what you hear this song to be, and you know, so that's fun. But some people use clicks. I'm comfortable with it because of doing jingles and stuff like that in films. Everything is click and what's called a roaming click, where the click changes tempos and changes time signatures. It's a lot of that in film because it's not about the music as much as it's about the picture. So the composers are writing to make it work with the picture.
So when you do a movie and you're doing that, who sets do they set up a click and send it to you if you record in your studio, or how do you?
If they send it to my studio, they'll send me a file with the movie thing in it. In fact, we just did. I did Undercover Brother. I just was thinking about that. I did Undercover Brother at another studio with Stanley Clark, but we did Undercover Brother 2 here at my studio. So it was new to me to lock up with picture and all that kind of stuff. So we did all that, and they just import the session. And as soon as we open up the session, there's some features that happen where it opens up the film. So we're actually in SMPTE tracking to the film, to the picture. So I have a screen in this room, a screen in that room, so I could monitor what's going on as I'm tracking.
Wow, fascinating. And most of the movie dates do you do those in your studio then?
No, just some like if somebody's doing something quick. I did the Smurfs movie, Hidden Village. I did one cue for the composer Christopher Leonard, who I do quite a few films with, and he sent me one of the cues here that we did here, and it had the roving click with it, and the orchestra was already on it, so I had to put drums on it, and it had some tempo changes and some, it was great, and he just sent everything here.
So, I'm curious, when you get it here, and you're watching the movie and you're listening to the tracks and everything, do they send you a conductor conducting as well, or
no? Just a click.
Just a click.
Yeah. So I'll hear the click, and I can hear where the tempo changes, and it'll tell me on my chart that the tempo is going to change. You'll see if you look at it. If it's at 120, then you'll see it say 122 and 2 bars, and you'll hear the click, 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 click. You can feel where it's going to change, and then that's the difference when somebody's conducting it. It's easier to follow because once you're watching him, he's giving you everything,
Right.
And when it's just you and the track, you have to just listen to the click, and you just kind of nail it, and you get used to it. It's different from doing a record date because the click is going to stay the same.
Mm-hmm. So after a while, if it says like if it's 120, they say it's going to slow down to 100, and you see it coming, you get to the point where you just kind of know how it's going to go, and
right. And normally they won't do it. It won't be that drastic, like from 120 to 100, but it'll go from 120 to 118 to 116, 114, and probably when it gets down to 112, they're at a place that it's going to sit there for a while, and It's gradual, but you can definitely hear it. You can definitely hear it.
Okay. Uh, uh, then when you do live gigs though, now I'm back to this, and I'm thinking the difference between how you groove and different stuff you play. Um, when you're playing in the studio, do you get asked to stylistically emulate like a different feel or a different like a rock guy, or can you make it be more of a rock, or can you do more funk? Can you play laid back? Can you play more up? Do you swing? Do you get a lot of that kind of thing, or you just do people want you because just of how you play?
Both ways.
Okay.
Some people are real particular about what they want, and as a session player, um, the hardest part about being a session player, what you're supposed to do when you first of all when you come into the studio, you have to come in egoless, no ego, no I'm this, I play like this. You come in with a vision like I gotta make this person feel his vision. I gotta try and figure out how to give this person the vision that they're looking for because they're hearing a song in its entirety, whether it's um, you know you hear eighth notes on the hi-hat, they hear quarter notes, or they hear sixteenths, or they hear dotted eighths, or different things. And some things will work either way. Some things work better this way or that way. But you got to let them see what it is. You have to give them a chance to see because sometimes, I mean, it's their song, so they know what they hear. But it could be as simple as an overdub, or it could be as simple as I had a client that wanted me to keep the tom fills going, but while my hi-hat and everything was going. I said, well, I can't really do that, but I think what you want me to do is an overdub. So I said, well, let me do this first, and then I'll do the thing. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's just an overdub. Because some people don't know how to explain it. Then you have other people that you work with, they know exactly how to explain it, know exactly what they want, how they want it. So that's why it's different working with different artists. You can't play the same way with that I played with Mays. I didn't play that way with George Benson. I didn't play that way with Sanborn. Um, you know, you just don't.
Mm-hmm. When what was it like when you did the Steely Dan stuff? Were they really particular and saying they really want things a specific way?
They write it out. It's all written out, so you don't have to guess what they're looking for. And you when they send you the demos, which is a term that Walter and Donald used called demoitis. So when they sent the demos for the Two Against Nature record, and I'm not saying this to be, rude or cruel, they'll tell you they were the worst sounding demos I ever heard. And then what I did, I found out that they wanted the demos to not be good because they said writers and producers get caught up with what they call demoitis. They're so used to the demo a certain way. So when they start recording it, they find themselves pulling back, trying to recreate the demo. So instead of getting in that frame of mind, they make their demos ugly. So we don't want it to sound like that at all. That's just a demo. So don't pay attention to what's being played. It's a roadmap and an idea.
Mm.
I've heard some demos that's so good, I end up going, why are they replacing the drums? I couldn't even tell it was a drum. You know, I've heard some movie cues with, with the whole orchestra, these samples that they got. The drums sound so real. I'm like, man, they could have kept the drums. I could hear the opening and shut up the hi-hat when they stomp on the pedal, buzz rolls. I hear all that stuff.
Wow. Why do you think they even want to change it then?
Well, first of all, you can't get like if you're trying to win any awards and things like that, you can't win awards with sample strings or
Mm.
music in a box. You have to have a real orchestra, real band. I know that's one of the reasons, but most composers they really want live musicians, and if the budget allows, that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's some composers they take a hit because they do want it live, which is great for musicians. That keeps us working.
Yeah, and I think we really want to keep musicians working. And one of the things that I'm a little concerned about today with the pandemic and all of this sort of stuff, and everybody forced to be in their home studio, and some of the massive content starting to be created for some of the TV shows and all the networks, that there are guys just sitting in their room just doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that it doesn't stay there. And I've talked to you and Wayne Bergeron and George Shelby and guys that do a lot of stuff from their home. So if everybody keeps doing this, I mean, what do you think? Are you going to get more of doing in your own studio than going to a sound stage or something now, or at least for the next couple of years?
Well, I don't think I'm not sure. I don't think everything's going to go away. I think this is going to create, it's going to be a new normal when things come back, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just because a drummer or a bass player or whatever builds a studio or puts up a studio, uh, unless he's already doing things or getting work calls, just because you put up a room don't mean people will call you and hire you. So most of the guys that have rooms, they've had the rooms for a while and they've kind of been tried and tested, because I would never try and be an engineer to get my drums to sound up to snuff. So if part of the record's done at Henson or Capitol, when they put on my track and it sounds like, oh, he cut that in the room he built in his garage, you have to be sure about that. You have to be on par. So you have to have the top engineers tweaking your room. You got to have good mic pre's and EQs and microphones, and have some knowledge of tuning some drums and picking the right drums for this or the right drum for that. When
Mm-hmm.
I go to sessions, I generally take 10 or 15, 20 snare drums, 3 or 4 bags of cymbals, because I don't know what I'm doing. And if I'm doing films, I take even more than that, because if they have a certain sound, I don't want to go in there with just some K zillions. I want to go in there with the A's and with the rock ones. I want to go in there with the specialty cymbals. And, when I go in there with my Remo drum heads, I want to go with clear, coated, ambassador, diplomat, emperors, the color gels, all to have variety. So if they want a certain thing, I could change out the drums and get closer to that sound.
Mm-hmm.
So
So when you do certain sessions, do you ahead of time know what they might be asking for, or sometimes you go and you don't know, so you bring all that stuff and then you work with the engineer to get
most of the time they'll when they call you for some of the film dates, it's a company called Dateline, and what they'll do, they'll send out a call sheet of all the musicians that's in the rhythm section or the percussionists and that kind of thing, and they'll say we're doing this in the 70s or in the 90s, or it's a rock-based film. Can you bring a 26-inch bass drum or 24-inch bass drum, big toms, meaty, fat snare drums, blah blah blah. So so you're prepared. And sometimes they'll send like the mock tracks of this. This is the kind of sound we're going for. So you can go through your stuff and do it. Sometimes you don't get that. You just get called. You go in and you get a stack of music and you go to work.
and yeah, you don't know, and you end up making decisions and choices while you're there to get a
Right,
certain sound.
right. So it's good to take a lot of gear with you. So if they call out something that it's something that you normally don't have. I don't have a 26-inch bass drum. I have a 24 now,
Mm.
but you know, um, when I was doing Horrible Bosses, they told me they wanted a big rock kit. I didn't have one, and I'm a Tama guy,
Mm.
and I love Tama and the endorsements that I have. The companies are great, but if I'm working and they ask me for something that I don't have, I have to go to work. And I mean, I would never be so blatant to, um, you know, do a photo spread or something with another company's drums as kind as Tama's been to me, or whatever company you're with. My choice is Tama. But when I did Horrible Bosses, I ended up having to call good friend of mine, Vince Wilburn, and he set me up with a Gretsch kit, a yellow Gretsch kit with a big 26-inch bass drum and huge toms, and that's what's on Horrible Bosses.
Mm-hmm.
And unbeknownst to me, they took some pictures and stuff, and it came up and popped up online. And when I saw it, I sent a letter and apologized to Tama because, you know, I didn't know. But I did call and ask Tama if they had a loaner, and they didn't have a loaner available.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because when I got the news what I needed, I only had a day to get that prepared. So Tama did try and deliver, but Vince Wilburn bailed me out with the yellow Gretsch kit.
They were probably pretty understanding, right? The company, Tama?
Yeah. Oh no, they were cool, but you know, so what I did and what they did, they said, well, on your next kit, why don't we do you some extra toms as well, like a bigger kick drum, some more toms, because I'm a creature of habit. If I play a 22 kick, most of my kits are 22 kick. So if somebody says, you know, if I buy just baseball caps and then somebody say I need you to wear a derby, I don't buy derby, so I got to borrow one. So it's kind of good to have a little bit of everything, you know, especially if you're doing recordings.
I have a couple of questions. I'm imagining now in your garage, you have a lot of different. Do you have a staple of drum heads and sticks and all of those kinds of different cymbals? So it's just,
yes,
it's almost like a drum shop.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
and I think about when I hear the track, I don't just pick up any snare drum. I listen to the track, and I have my 5 or 6, 7 go-to snare drums that I know will do anything. But I have this engraved Ludwig Black Beauty that Donald Fagen, he started calling it the hit maker. And people, after I did the record, people would call me and say, what snare drum did you play on Jack of Speed? And I said it was a black and gray 6.5 by 14 Black Beauty engraved. Yeah, bring that snare drum. And I would bring the snare drum. They say, you played on Jack of Speed, right? And it's kind of a swing little funk tune. And I said, yeah. I get to the session, the tune that I'm recording has nothing to do with what I played on Jack of Speed. It's just that they wanted to make sure that I was the guy with that snare drum. That's how it was.
But how important is it that the engineer knows how to help you get that sound as well and record it right?
It's as important as me playing. If I sound great in the room and the mics are not capturing it, it'll never go to tape or the Pro Tools the right way. If you go to a concert and you're watching your favorite drummer and the sound engineer is not doing anything and he's playing toms and cymbals and all you hear is kick and snare,
right?
It's not going to sound good.
Right.
Like the engineer, that's the most important thing. That's what captures the sound.
Right. And you know, I know Dennis is watching, and I just want to say a shout out to Dennis Moody because you say you've used him as your engineer to help there for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And he's done Steve Gadd and Dave Weckl. So he obviously is a guy.
He did Ricky Lawson too.
And Rick, yeah. So he knows how to get good drum sounds. And
his drum sounds are his engineering is impeccable. But drummers, he just does something with drums that's just unbelievable.
Right. And I think that is, from what you're saying, is every bit as important as you coming in with the right snare drum. Because let's say the example you just gave where they want to make sure you were the guy with that Black Beauty, but then they got an engineer that doesn't know how to get the right sound.
Yeah, that's true. That can happen. But most engineers, if they're top shelf engineers, they hear the drum and they know how to dial it in right away. And then if you're lucky enough to have a great sounding drum that is you know, a tweak here, a tweak there, it's like, hey man, I'm good. That's it. You know, if it's a bad sounding instrument or drum or something, and the cat's got to go in and use this and dial that in, put this in, boost that up. It's not sounding like the drum, but they know how to make, you know, lemonade out of lemons. So they figure it out. But it helps if you have great sounding gear.
You know, all of that I've been doing for the last 10 years has been live sound. And I love when a drummer comes and has a good sound, because if I'm doing a live gig and I hear the snare sounds great, I'm like, I don't have to do anything with that. I just got to put a mic on it,
Right.
you know? And I did a gig one time and a guy came and his drums just sounded like crap.
So
And
you have to work real hard.
I said, could you tune your drums? He goes, well, what do you mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, I go, you got a drum key? And I just started working on it. He goes, wow, what'd you do? And I said, I tuned him.
Yeah.
You know, so there, I think sometimes, and I can't speak for Dennis, but if the guy's already got a good sound, it makes a sound engineer's job a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
And,
And then if the drums sound good, engineer will get more excited to even push the envelope harder.
right,
They get excited about recording those drums. Like, man, I can do this and I can make it do this or do that. Hey, Mike, what do you think about that? And Dennis is great with that. Hey, Mike, let's try and lift up the cymbal, lift up the mic over the overheads up a little bit to change the air in the room, or let's lower him to condense it. I mean, he knows tricks. So if I'm doing a rock record, he'll put something over across the room, a room mic, and add that, which gives me that big, like I'm cutting in capital A or something, and I'm in my little room. So it's interesting.
right. And how important is it to, I didn't know, I think I was going to get into talking too much shop because you've got a great story, but tuning toms, it seems to be a real hard thing for some drummers to do. Is there a trick that you've found that works best for tuning toms, especially for recording?
Well, it depends on the track. When I start recording songs, I started listening to the whatever key that the track is in with my kick drum and my toms, because if you do a feel and it's in a certain frequency, you'll hit a tom and it'll rub with the frequency of the bass guitar. So you can kind of, while the tune is going down the chorus or whatever, if you hit your toms and you can still hear all the tone of the toms, you know that nothing's rubbing. But you can hear some stuff sometimes that every time you hit a certain tom, the frequency will resonate and rub to where you either got to put tape on it or change the tuning. To me, one of my favorite drummers, to me, that has the best toms that I hear on no matter what record it is. As soon as I hear his toms, I know exactly who it is, and they always sound stellar. And I'll tell you who it is, and I'll tell you one of the reasons. It's Buddy Williams out of New York. He's got the most distinctive tom sound since the 70s. And not only that, he has perfect pitch.
Oh.
So he has perfect pitch. If you start a song, he can tell you what key you're in right away.
And does he tune his drums to match the
yeah
key of the tune?
He must tune his drums to match the tracks. I mean, or he has a general tuning that if the band's in tune, the drums are just going to speak out. His drums are undeniably the best toms. It's unbelievable.
And what would he play on that I could tell people to listen to, or that
most drummers, if they know drums, they know who Buddy Williams. If you pick up the first Luther Vandross record, Herb Alpert Rise, on Bended Knee, Tom Brown Throwdown, Funkin' for Jamaica with Marcus and all those guys. He's done so many records. I'd be remiss not. I mean,
And that Rise tune.
Yeah.
I mean, that the toms on that were like,
I mean, as soon as you think about it, and the same when I mentioned ballads, he's one of my favorite ballad players too. When he opens up his hi-hat, he gives you the full value of the I mean, you don't find that much. I mean, when you feel that right, it's undeniable.
That made me think of something. When I listen, I certain feel that the Whitney Houston ballads and stuff back in the 80s, there was that that sort of a really laid back snare hit, and it almost would feel like the snare drum would wait until next year to come in.
Right. Ricky Lawson.
Right.
Another one of those great ballad recorders, great session drummer and live.
You know, the time never slowed down, but it just felt like the snare drum would wait until the next note before it would even hit sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Right. He called that his drum solo.
Oh, that's fascinating. So now we've been talking about drum sounds and everything, but what was it like? You were saying earlier, and I'm not sure how much everybody was able to hear everything you were saying when we first started because of my internet dropping out. But you started at 15 with Ramsey Lewis. So you've been pretty much at the top end of the spectrum your entire life in terms of drummers and gigs and everything that you've done. I mean, you know, when I look through all of these artists that you've played with, you know, I can only come up with a fan kind of question. It's like, what of all of the gigs, what were some of the coolest moments in playing? Because you've had the Commodores, Earth, Wind and Fire, Norman Brown, the list. If people go to jazzplanet.net and listen to your music there and read your bio,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm thinking, okay, Michael Brecker, you know, what is a story or two that seems to always come up for you and that was really cool that I got to do that?
I tell you a fun gig, but it was a stressful gig, but the music was so good. 1984, I went out with Ricky Lee Jones. And the music was incredible because the drummers that played on the record, you know, Jeff Beccaro, Steve Gadd. So the song books were great songs, difficult music. Some of the music, she had a record called Gravity, and it was some hard stuff. And James Newton Howard put the band together, and so it was a great gig. Difficult music, difficult artists, but the music was incredible. I mean, that was a stellar gig. And I had gotten called to go out with Gino Vanelli. And I really wanted to go out with Gino, and they all had the same management. Patrick Raines was managing Marcus Miller, Joe Sample, Al Jarreau, Gino Vanelli, and Ricky Lee Jones. So they called me to go out with Gino Vanelli, and I couldn't make it because Ricky extended her tour, and I turned on a famous drummer named Greg Bissonette.
Oh.
And Greg Bissonette got the gig, and then he stayed for a while, and then he ended up leaving that to go out with David Lee Roth. But Ricky Lee Jones, that was a fun gig. It was some, you know, I've had some great gigs. I mean, you know, George Benson, fun gig.
Oh man!
I mean, the type of stuff he played, we played everything. We would swing, Latin stuff, you know, funk, pop, ballads, big band. We did everything.
Right.
Sanborn, fun gig. You know, fun gig.
Yeah. So, how long did you play with? Did you play with David for like a specific tour, David Sanborn, or just?
Yeah, I did about 7 months with him in '94. Mm-hmm. Was it '94? '93 maybe. '93. I left after I got done with George Benson. I went out with David, and then I had played with David in '84 with Hiram Bullock and all of us. So I did 2 stints with David, '84 and then '93. I think I did 2 or 3 stints with George, '89, something like that, and '90. And I did the live in Belfast, Ireland, the live DVD that he did. I did that. And then I did 3 tours with Curtis Mayfield, '79, '81, and '83. With also Jerry Butler and the Impressions was on that too as well. And I played for everybody.
Wow. Man, you know, everybody that a drummer would want to play with, you've you've played with. You know, I want to I want to ask you, because you're the Ricky Lee Jones. Did she play Chucky's in Love?
Yeah. And
And
here's a funny story. So she told me in front of the band, of course, she said that when Steve played Chucky's in Love, when he did the little drum break, that it made her giggle. So she would tell me that mine didn't make her giggle. So we're out for about 2.5, 3 months. So we're in Canada, like Toronto or something, and the drum break happens. Right?
uh-huh.
I play the break, and she just starts laughing uncontrollably on stage. It just tickled her to no end. She said, "Michael White, you made me smile and giggle." I'm giggling, and she giggled and kept laughing, walking around the stage laughing, and we kept playing the thing till she came back in, and we did it.
Wow.
We just looped it until she started singing again.
Wow, that's cool. You know, it makes me think of sometimes when singer says, "Hey, we want you to do a certain thing." We want you to do a certain thing, and they don't know how to explain it to you. I just make me giggle. I just need you to make me giggle. And
yeah, she was very particular. She's like, when Steve played that, he made me giggle.
Wow.
And that was that.
Yeah, that would be kind of hard to figure out. Well, what do I have to do to make her giggle?
and I kind of knew what she was talking about, because you know, his feel, like playing the lick, is you could drums is like your DNA. You can't change it.
Mm.
I could play a groove. 20 drummers could play the same groove, and it's going to feel different every time. Same sticking, same lick, same tempo. It's going to be different every time. It's like a fingerprint. No two cats groove the same. No two cats feel the same. That's why when producers are casting for a record, it's just like casting for an actor. They're trying to quarterback a thing where I want this kind of bass player that plays this way with this drummer, this guitar player that plays this way with this bass player, this keyboard player that plays this way, this percussionist, and they cast it. So some guys fall into a lot of categories to cast. You know, some guys can play this and play that and play that and play that. Some guys play this the best. Some guys play this well. Some guys just can play anything, any kind of way. So it's definitely it's not a trick to it. I mean, it's no secret why a lot of guys continuously get the call to do different sessions, because they deliver, and you figure you're on a time. It's a time issue, so you got to get somebody in there that's gone. And it's not always about reading. If you're doing records, it's not about just reading. The charts is just a roadmap. They want the feel. If you're doing jingles, they want the feel, the eyes, quick. Everything is quick. It's a 30-second spot. How funky or how slick can you be in 30 seconds? You know, so get the product done right, make it feel good, make it fun. If it's supposed to be sneaky or fun or happy, make it that. Moving on. Keep moving on. If it's a film, same thing. You want to capture what's being asked for you by the music, and then some composers will say, once they get to know you, they'll say, don't worry about the ink. If you hear something better than what I've written, just play what you hear. Feel that that's right. That will make this more interesting and more fun. Or they'll have you look at the film. It's a comedy, and they doing little things. So the guy's drunk at the bar, so they want me to play like I'm real loose. So he wants me to hit the rims across the stick, or click a couple of sticks, crash off the cymbal, and hit a tom. Those are the things. If it's a comic, a comedic thing, they want it to be like that. So those things are fun to do, because we learn all the time to play perfect, to be in time. So when you're playing with somebody who's telling you pick up the tempo or rush or pull it back or drag, or it's kind of weird. But you get used to it. So different artists, one of my favorite artists that I work with that's killer on drummers And anybody know me, they'll know that I'm gonna say Frankie Beverly. But I wouldn't trade what I learned from being one of the Maze soldiers. I wouldn't trade it because Maze camp was a certain kind of boot camp, a certain kind of schooling that he brought out of you.
What was something that made you that you learned from being there in terms of a groove? Because everybody
they'll play any kind of way. He'll tell me, put the snare drum a little up on the top side, put the kick drum in the middle, and make the hi-hat dance around all that. And I'm like going, wow. Then you get it. And then the next night will come and you'll try and recreate it. Yeah, that's not what I want. Pick it up, pick it up. That means pick it up. This means pull it back.
Oh, and did that happen a lot?
Yeah, for 21 years.
Oh man! Oh, what's happening now? Like, oh.
So when it would get too intense, I would go home because thank goodness I had other gigs. And whether or not he say, "Well, hey man, you can go home," I go home. He called me back in 8 months. Said, "Man, I need you to come out." I go out, and things get rough. He say, "Man, do what you want to do." I said, "I'm going home." So we danced like that for years, but. I love the gig. I love the band. I love the experience. It was probably, to me, probably the best live band ever. So different experiences and different people make you play different. Marcus Miller, he loves to challenge me. He said, "Man, you better not come in here with that safe Dagadoon time fills, man. Play me some fills over the bar line. I want you to sweat." I did a movie with him a couple of years ago because I did Boomerang with him and Above the Rim, and we did a movie called About Last Night about 3 years ago with Tim Carmen on keyboards, Paul Jackson on guitar, and me and Marcus bass and drum. So it's this one part in the film that had like this little bolero thing, and he had written it out note for note, buzz for this, hi-hat chick, all these kind of little things, and he's playing like a muted bass part. We doing all this, so we spend 20 minutes on this part of the cue. And I was telling my wife, I said, "Babe, when we went to see the movie, I said, check this part out. This is the part I was telling you about." So we're in the theater watching the film, and it was so low, and we had spent 20 minutes on this cue. I was like this, like, man, I can't believe they had that cue so low I couldn't hear it. That was some bad stuff. And we spent 20 minutes on that section. So those kind of things happen. And, once they put the dialogue in, you can't, like, you want to tell the sound guy, stop the dialogue and turn up this part because that's a bad cue right here. You miss out on that kind of stuff. But, Marcus, he likes to challenge you, and I love that. I played on his record, The Sun Don't Lie, with me, him, Joe Sample, Andy Narell. I can't think of who else was on the track, but it was one of those real hip tracks, and it had a roaming click on the backside where it sped up, then it slowed back down at a part, and it was real slick. And he wanted me to play, different kind of fields than I would normally play, So don't come in here with none of that safe stuff, man. Play over the bar line. So if you listen to Marcus's song, "The Sun Don't Lie," check out the drums on it. We cut it at Capitol, and it was fun. And fields that I typically, wouldn't have done on my own, but under his guidance, that's what I did.
I have two questions. One is, what was it like working with Joe Sample? Man, I love.
Oh, it was great.
Oh,
it was great.
I love that guy's playing just so much.
Well,
man,
for me, I enjoyed. I almost went out with the Crusaders, almost, and I'll say almost.
Oh.
So I got called to do the gig. This was in 82 or 83. So I got called to do the gig. So we were rehearsing in Hollywood. And I didn't know that they were rehearsing another drummer in the evening, a friend of mine named Tony T. Bird Lewis, great drummer. He plays with Smokey Robinson. So he was supposed to go out too. So they didn't choose. They were going to pick between Tony or myself. So he told me, Wilton's telling me to do it this way. Joe is saying do it this way. But the common denominator kept coming up was a Texas hump, which I never figured out what that is. Oh, I just need to have that Texas hump. It's got to have that Texas hump. So Joe said, whatever you do, don't listen to the records because that's not what I'm looking for. And Wilton would say, go back and listen to the records. Sticks will guide you to what we're looking for. So we rehearsed, and after 2 weeks, I decided not to go because I wasn't having a good time. Oh. And I got in a call to go out with Ronnie Law, so I ended up going out with Ronnie Law, the sax player. But that was, and then later on, I got to play with Joe, with George Benson, and he's on the live DVD that we did. And then again, unfortunately, he didn't make the record, but he was on some of the sessions in New York when we did the Two Against Nature record with Steely Dan.
Wow. You know, I'm thinking, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to do that gig because I got this other gig. I'm just thinking for myself.
But I don't even know if they were going to, I didn't know if they were going to pick me or Tony. So I didn't really know. So I just knew that it was stressing me out because I didn't know which way to kind of go. One guy's telling me, listen to the records. It's all there. The other co-lead is telling me, don't listen to the records. That's not what we're looking for.
That's confusing. That would be stressed. Yeah. What was it like working with Anita Baker? Do I need to say where that came from? Dennis threw that out. He was a question.
Okay, I'm not gonna go into the Anita Baker story. I'll just say this: I first met Anita back in like 1980 or something like that. No, 1982. But I'll put it this way: we never hit the stage together. We did it. I did do a TV show with her, and I did a session for her. But we never hit the stage because it got a little weird and it didn't end up working out. But I won't go into any Anita Baker stories, but I should have kept running because she was trying to get me to work with her for like 20 years. And I dodged it for 20 years and I stopped dodging too soon. I should have remained, unattainable. I just put it that way. But she's a great singer. She's bad.
Right.
But,
so
that's what that was.
So we've been 43 minutes with a good, strong feed, right? So we've had really good conversation and we're a little after 4, but I kind of want to get this in because the first 15 kind of like all over the place. So
go ahead, go for it.
So you did pop records too, and you did the Steely Dan thing. What are there some other pop records that you do or that you always worked on that we may not know about?
Pop. I don't do a whole lot of pop records, that kind of thing. I just did the new Neo record that's coming out soon. Did a real nice dance track on that record. But I don't do a lot of pop records. More, I've done more R&B. I've done some obscure records that, did real well. Then that was a period that I was doing a lot of records for a lot of the Japanese stars over there. So, but I've never done like the Beyonce type records, the big pop records, or Usher. I don't. And most, I mean, if there is drums and stuff on there, most of those are machine driven records anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't. I'm sure there's guys that do a lot of the pop records. I don't really keep up with those. I know there was a period I was doing like so many smooth jazz records. It was unbelievable. It was maybe 4 of us that was doing everything. Me, Ricky Lawson, Lil Jon, and Oscar Seaton. We were doing
I'm sorry, I'm everything. Looking at Dave Koz, Brian Culbertson, those are just a few of the those are the smooth jazz guys, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I've done a lot of those
Right.
records. Yeah, a lot of those records. Paul Taylor, a whole bunch of those guys. Huge Groove, Najee, a whole bunch of those guys.
Boney James. Yeah.
Dan Siegel, Brian Simpson. Yeah, a bunch of those guys.
The Gap Band. What was the Gap Band like? What did you do with them?
Oh, TV show. I never played
Okay.
with them live. Yeah, I never played with them live or recorded with them. That was a TV show called Motown Live with Ricky Minor. And we did people like B.B. King and Gap Band and El DeBarge and a lot of different people like that.
Yeah.
So some of the things that end up on the resume were like with Mary J. Blige. I did a record with her, a tribute to May's record, but I did a live thing with her at the House of Blues when George Duke was the musical director. And I did a lot of stuff with George Duke as well.
So George Duke would produce things, and he would for like other smooth jazz guys, and he'd produce it and bring in his people to record for them. Is that how that worked?
Wait, say it again.
So if George Duke would produce a record, let's say, I would come in and say, George, produce my smooth jazz record. Then he'd say, okay, I'll call Michael, and then I'll call this guy and call that guy. And he would then put the record together. Is that how that worked?
Yeah. The producer, like most of the time, the artists, they normally don't really, unless it's somebody that they really want to be a part of, they normally leave that to the producer. The producer has his guys that he brings in. Like back in the day, it was contractors, would contract you to play on sessions. The contractor thing was really big out here when I first got out here. Ben Barrett and all those people, they would contract for the different sessions. So when I in the early 80s, they had a staff at Motown, and I was on the staff up there, and we would track up there for a lot of different artists, and we track in the morning, sometimes in the night, and sometimes at 2 or 3 in the morning for the different producers.
Wow. Okay.
Normally Freddie Washington, Paul Jackson Jr., or Welton Guy, William Bryan. It was a host of different guys, and we would do stuff for the different producers up there. Just always recording.
And for TV shows, I was just thinking, you've mentioned Ricky Minor a few times, and he recently did the Oscars.
Yeah, he's been the last few years.
So do you ever get called to do any of those kinds of shows?
No, he has his internal guys that he used, Teddy Campbell and Wayne, Kevin Rickard, and all those guys. He has Paul Jackson on. And so he has in the beginning, when I was doing stuff with Ricky for Motown Live and the Tonight Show and different things like that, before he became the band lead on Tonight Show, he was throwing a lot of people work. He kept, people working, bass players, guitar players, keyboard players, drummers. And then when he started getting more serious into it, he developed a sound, and he got his crew, which helped him develop the sound. And he kept because he was hiring different people, because I would do something with him for 2 weeks, and then I'd be on the road with somebody. Then he have to call and replace that, and have to replace this guy because he's gone. So once he got his core guys and got his sound, he kept that pretty much the main thing, and it's worked great.
Yeah. Now, before we wrap up, because we're getting close to an hour of good feed, so people have been tuned in. We've had a good share of people watching. Tell me again about the Grammys that you've won, and what was your involvement in them that I can't see that are to your right.
In the other room. One is for Herb Alpert, which I think was best jazz something that Jeff Lorber produced, that I did with Jeff Lorber. Then another one is for Morning with Al Jarreau, George Benson. And then the third one is the Steely Dan 2 Against Nature.
Man, It,
That one record of the year.
I'm just trying to think, what's it feel like to win a Grammy for something that you've done?
I didn't feel. I mean, I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
I don't understand, and this is just me venting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how the musicians don't receive a Grammy.
Mm.
Even if you part of a record that won a Grammy, I'm not saying they should. If they don't decide to give everybody a gramophone, they should be at least able to purchase one if you so decide to. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and then if you don't do that, if you play on record of the year or song of the year or something like that, you should be able to be eligible for a Grammy because the engineer gets a Grammy. So my question is, my statement is, if an engineer gets a Grammy and the musicians don't get a Grammy, how can he get an engineer for mixing when no musicians are? You can't mix if we're not there.
Right.
Like watching a movie, I'll watch movies and look at the end credit, and it's not something that I did, but like I heard something, man, I wonder who's playing drums on that.
Yeah, you never see it.
I'll watch the credits. They'll show the hairdressers, the caterers, the drivers, the blah 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 blah, and they never say what rhythm section that was or something like that. That drives me nuts.
Me too. You know, I always want to know. There are so many times I want to know who it was that played on that movie. You
And
know,
nowadays, it's when we came up, my whole thing was coming home from school, which got me excited to do what I do, was looking at album covers.
yeah.
To see, I could see who played on this. Oh man, Harvey Mason played on this. Jeff played on this. Gad played on this. Freddie White played on this. I could go through it and see it and love that stuff. I don't know who's playing on what now.
No, you never know. And it's if I want to look, okay, what movies did Michael White play on? I wouldn't know unless you told me. Because and Bernie Dressel and some of all the other people that I know do some of those sessions, and Walter Rodriguez, you know, because their names are never on the credits.
Yeah.
You know,
I talked to Bernie not long ago, and we were laughing at the Pro Drum Shop party. I said, I know I'm not even gonna say what movie, but you know what movie I'm talking about. I said, I know that's you on that movie. He looked at me and smiled. I said, I know that's you on the movie. I love what you did. He said, thank you, but yeah. I'm not saying it was me, but thank you. I said, I got it. I'm gone. I understand. Right. So that happens.
Yes. Yeah. You know? And it's kind of sad, you know, in a way, because musicians deserve to be noted for what they do. You know,
when I was younger, that was really important to me. But as I've gotten older, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't mean the same to me. I still dig it, but I don't. It doesn't make me feel the same way it made me feel when I was younger. Like when I was younger, I wanted to be the best drummer in the world. I wanted to be famous. I don't want to be famous anymore. I just want to be relevant. I just want to be okay with doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you've got a pretty nice life. You've got a nice studio. You've got a great family, and people call you for work. And I understand, especially for me now, we're the same age. And things don't mean the same to me, but for the fans, for people who want to know, and kids coming up, though, it's different. When we were kids, we could look at, who was that? What was that sound? And then you could find it on the record. But today it's harder for somebody if they want to know, who played that? I want to know who that is. And you can't find it. You know, when you download a pop song or anything on iTunes or any Spotify, you can't find out who's playing on all the music.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so if you're a kid and you want to play drums, I mean, how do you find out who did that? Who's doing this?
Most of the kids that's coming around today, they don't know the history of the instrument. They don't know the history of you know, the way we knew it. But it's different because it's a different way. Just like when we listen to vinyl, when we tried to learn what Billy Cobham did on Spectrum, we had to slow it down to 16
Right.
and figure it out. Now you go online on YouTube and you can look at the sticking,
Oh, that's
slow it down. They show you, they have angles, what the foot is doing with the hi-hat. So they have quite a bit of different advantages. And it works. I mean, it works.
there,
It
there
was
is.
harder when we were younger. You had to dig in and do some homework.
Right.
It's right there now. Everything is right there.
Yeah, I remember sitting and trying to transcribe some stuff, and I'm like, "What the hell?" Slowing it down, and yeah, you couldn't get it slow enough to figure it out. Sometimes.
Oh man.
Um, then actually, somebody asked a question, and it sounds like they might know who you are. How was it when you subbed for Color Purple?
Ooh. Okay, so I get a call from a friend of mine. Well, he was a new friend. I had just met him. He got my number from someone else. And I found out that we ended up going to the same high school maybe 15, 20 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there. So he's from Chicago, great drummer named Charles. So he invited my wife and I down to the Color Purple. So I asked my wife, "You want to see the Color Purple?" She said, "Yeah." So we went down, saw the show. Now, I didn't know that he was going to ask me to do it. But I had just been telling her, man, I'm doing all these sessions, and every time I do a different song, it's pretty much the same drum thing that I did yesterday, day before yesterday, last week, last month. I wanted to start challenging myself. So she said, "Yeah, you should." So sometimes you have to be careful what you say.
Right.
People hold you accountable, right? So two things happen. So first, I get called by the guy who did Hang 'em High. His name is Ennio Morricone. So Jeff Lorber turned me on to his son. His son's name is Andreas Morricone. So he called me for an orchestra date up at Capitol. And like a 60-piece orchestra. And I said, okay, well, I haven't been reading a whole lot because I've been on the road. So can you send me a PDF of the charts and a couple of the cues we're doing? He said, okay. So he sent me the stuff. I saw the charts. I said, okay, that's not that bad. Some waltzes, some things in 5, some things in 6, and most of it's in 4. Not a big thing. Show up for the date. I get up to Capitol. The day starts at 9 o'clock. I get up there around 8:15. They put the music on the stand at 8:30. So I get my drum sounds and I open up the first book. And I'm telling you, it's a thick, thick thing. Open up the first cue. It's a 9/8, and the click is about 132. So now I'm hot. I'm pissed off. So I'm looking like going, what the? I called my wife. I said, babe, listen, I'm going to need you to call Capitol in about 20 minutes with an emergency story because I got to get out of here. Because it's some hard stuff. And I told this cat I hadn't been reading, for a while. My eyes are not right now. So she said, baby, take a deep breath, knock it out. So prior to this, I had already called Harvey Mason. So I called Harvey. He said, Michael, how you doing? I said, man, can you do a session for me? Man, I'm heading out to the golf course. Where you at? I said, I'm up at Capitol, but I got a little emergency going on, man. I can't do it. So couldn't get him. So I'm running out of people. So my wife told me, take a deep breath. I took a deep breath. So here we go. 9:01, we start tracking. So they set the click for the 132 or whatever. He counts it off. All right, so then we get to the end. He makes some adjustments, French horns, change your note to this, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Drums, you came in 2 beats early. All right, here we go. Go again. We win again. I'm making sure I'm not going to be 2 beats off this time. I get it. We nail the cue. I'm like, okay. Next cue, not so easy. Not so hard. We do that. Do 2 more. We take a Union 15. So the cats are standing around eating some bagels and talking. Yeah, man, I've never met you before. Blah, 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 blah. The older guys, I never met you before. So I knew Paul Jackson. I knew Alex Al, who was also on the session. I didn't know the orchestra guys. So I said, man, you got these cues sounding great. So I'm like, oh, okay. So as the day's going on, it's a double session. So we're in from 10 o'clock to like 6 or 7, so we cut and it's just getting better. The hardest one was the first one. I get home, I'm excited as I don't know what. I tell my wife that session was incredible. So then the Color Purple happened. So the guy said, will you think about, subbing for me? I have to go to Chicago and get something done. I said, all right, let me think about it. My wife nudged me like, take it. I said, okay. So I took it, not realizing that it's no rehearsals. They have a thing that you audit the show. So you come down for 2 nights and you sit next to the drummer and you're reading along with him. So I'm reading along with him. His name is Rick Heath. Bad cat. Charles Heath, Rick Heath, same guy. So I'm reading along with him. I'm saying, okay, it's a little tricky, but I like the book. So next thing I know, he gets up and then he goes and picks up hand percussion and start doing djembe and all this kind of stuff. I'm like going, well, I didn't know he was, because we were sitting in the audience. So they're in the pit. So I didn't know that I had to do that as well. I'm like going, shoot. So I took the gig. So I do the 2 nights of auditing. The next night, 7:30 come, the conductor, she's on the thing, opening thing, we hit it. I'm in it, just like that. Bam. We're in it. We do the thing. So right before we end for the intermission, his bass drum head busted. So now I'm playing the show for the first time. I'm playing kick drum on the floor tom. I'm playing kick drum with my floor tom. Unbelievable. So during the intermission, they fought and fought and fought. We changed the bass drum head. I did the rest of the show. I did the next night. So it was fun. I had fun, really had fun the second night. So then about a week or 2 later, they called me to play again. So I did a couple more and I was more comfortable. And it was incredible. And then I later found out, which I didn't know, that I think Buddy Williams wrote the drum book for Color Purple.
Oh.
Which I did not know.
Wow. So
he did it in New York for a long time.
One thing that I just was thinking, the moral of this story is be careful what you say. I think I want to be challenged.
Man. Even now, I've done, I think, 25 or 26 films. I still go early. I still take me my highlighters because we're reading off a master chart. So sometimes the pages are, so long, and then drums will be here. Next page, they're here. Next page, they're there. So I would end up jumping from the drum line to the percussion line to the bass. So I started putting the highlighters on. So then people start, telling you little tricks that you can do when you're doing films. At the bottom of the film, it's got the counter, the bar, and the beat of everything. So say like if you're doing a cue and you got 56 bars out. So, I'm sitting there, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, bar 3, 8, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And they, some of the guys would see me counting and, 56 bars, and the guy say, hey man, don't worry about the counting. You see that little on the bottom? That's what bar and beat we are. So when you get to bar 52, when you look up there and you see you around 50, start counting in, because you've been counting all this time, and I see you over here, counting, waiting on the rest. Just watch that. It'll tell you right where you are. And that little tricks like that help me out. The color pencils, if you make them blue or if you're green or whatever, and it'll pull your eye to the right staff. Because if you don't color it, you end up going there because you see notes, and then so I highlighted a certain color, then I just go to it, and it's like reading a chart, one chart, so just little tricks, But I still like to challenge myself. And every time I do a date, I still get a little nervous. wondering what kind of cues it's going to be, what kind of, and then once I'm in it, it's all good.
And back to taking all the stuff. So when you go in and do a set, nothing really today is happening. Do you have any? Have you heard how long down the way before you might be able to go do? People might start doing sessions in a studio or something like that.
I have a couple of films coming up, and I know that they're not at my place. So yeah, I don't know when. I know it's maybe August.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know. And I know some people have been recording even with the mask. They'll set it up where he's over here and
Right.
somebody's over there, and that's fine.
Yeah. And people are starting to do that, like the baked potato. And we talked about that because you had a steady gig when you first moved out here there.
Phil Upchurch, he brought me out here. I played with him in Chicago. He said, "Man, I love your playing. If you move to LA, you'll do great." He said, "I can't offer you much. I pay $40 and you get baked potato and all the Cokes you could drink every Sunday." But I took the gig because Patrice Rushen be there, Ernie Watts used to be there, Lee Ritenour, George Benson. That was the hang. So I got heard by everybody.
Right. And so I just want to say this, and a shout out to the baked potato for still being there.
I know.
I want to do everything I can to try to help them stay open.
Are they open right now?
They're not, but what they started doing is live streaming from the baked potato
with a band.
With a band.
Okay.
And this is what I'm hoping they can do, is that once that starts happening, and they can then, when they start letting people in, and maybe even if it's only a few people come in, if that starts happening, that they can keep the live stream going. Because I really think to pay $6, if I knew I only live 2 miles from the baked potato, and if somebody's playing there, some nights I kind of want to go see it, but if I knew I could pay $6 and watch the live stream, I might stay home rather than go there. And I think there's a lot of people that would pay $6 to, even though you could go, you might choose to watch the live stream.
Well, I still think it's going to be a new normal, because people are doing master classes online, different things like that. Because it might be a while before live music starts back.
Yeah.
Because people have to get their finances back together.
Mm-hmm.
We're not first to go back. I mean,
no.
You're not going to start back to work and say, "Oh, you know what? There's 10 concerts I got to go see, and clubs I got to go see people play." They don't want to. They're not sure about being close quarters like that, and they don't have the extra money to do that.
Right. I know. I paid $6 to watch the one with Don Randy when he did the first night. I think I watched that, and it sounds good, it looks good, and it was fun to watch. And I like to support the guys, anybody, especially there, because it's such a historic venue.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the only place that has been here since way back.
Yeah.
Wasn't there?
I don't even know where you go to play now.
There. That's maybe Catalina Jazz Club, maybe. But there's not really any place else.
Yeah, but back then we used to have a place called the Nucleus Nuance and Dante's and Josephina's. I mean, like, for new players in town, you could go see all these different things, but you can't do that now.
No.
Like, if somebody tells me, where can I go, to be heard, if a young drummer asks me, where can I go to be heard? I don't even know what to tell him.
No.
Like, I don't know. I'm not really familiar where to go.
I still think right now the only place you could go is the baked potato, and when it opens back up. That's kind of the only place anymore that maybe Vitello's. But
yeah, but that's for gigs. I mean, like the jam sessions.
Right. Yeah.
Jam sessions where somebody new to town could come and sit in and be heard or something.
There's not really anything, I don't think.
Not much that I know of. I don't get out much, but I don't know.
That's what, you know what, we know we're a little older when when we decide, nah, I just don't want to go hang out. People ask me, hey, do you go out and hear music? Not really anymore. I like just hanging out with my kids, man. I like being home now. I did all that when I was younger.
Right.
Yeah. But well, Michael, thank you for joining me and doing this with me. This has been great once we got able to talk and not have the live stream jump
Right.
out.
Right.
We've had people watch and listen and ask questions, and I've thoroughly enjoyed talking with you, and especially after I could pay attention and didn't have to worry about the thing crashing on me every
Right.
few minutes.
Well,
But
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
yeah, and
Thank you, Dennis Moody.
what's that?
I said thank you to Dennis Moody.
Dennis Moody, man, that guy. I'm
I
because
know.
he's helping me out too, because I'm trying to do this to give myself something to do, and it's fun and people watch, and he's helping me get guys to come on and talk with me.
And he's on speed dial over here because I'm always calling him with problems. Hey, Dennis, I'm recording, da da da, and I need to. How do you get my hi-hats to sound like old Motown? Okay, take down that hi-hat, put up this one,
Oh,
put it close into the bell, it'll change, and it'll sound just like that. You have some old hi-hats, put them up. He'll tell you to change the miking and do this. Man,
he told me a story about because I had him on the show, and we ended up talking like an hour and 40 minutes, and he told me this story about this funky old crappy mic that guys used to use to get that Motown hi-hat sound. And he goes, it doesn't really sound good, but I mean it's like, it sounds like that Motown sound. So yeah, I'm like, wow. There's, when guys have been around and done things for a long time, I mean, there's just so much you can learn from just little things to make it sound a certain way.
Yeah, if I tell him what I'm trying to record, he goes right to it. He'll just, I don't have to sit there and keep kicking the kick drum. He'll go to the frequency, and next thing I know, that's the sound that I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
He's something else.
Yeah. Well, again, like I told you, I met you way back in 1980, and I've thought about you a gazillion times. Like, man, I know what, I'd like to talk to him. And so I'm really appreciative that you spent the time. And because I have this up queued and can play it, I'm going to go back to this song that you did, Best Friend.
Oh, okay.
And I'll take us out with that, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I'm going to get it up, pull it up. And all right. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you,
All right.
all right. Absolutely, man.
All right. Thank you.